Do we have a new star at 147?
No, I had to take this back down to the dirty South. My whole thing is the South got something to say. Who else want to fuck with Hollywood Cole? You feel me? That's all I got. I included in the polar bear's toenails.
Be careful what you wish for because it can become a reality.
Yeah. The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. All right, so I was sitting here just getting some fresh air, and I had a video idea, and it came to me, so I wanted to go ahead and just get it off before I forget, because there's so much stuff going on right now. But wanted to speak about Brian Norman Jr., give you guys some extended thoughts on Brian Norman Jr., because he had one of the most unforgettable performances I've seen in a long time. You know, very impressive performance where he displayed just an amazing amount of offensive creativity and destruction before he stopped Giovanni Santillán. So now he captures the WBO Interim title. He's going to, at some point in the near future, be upgraded to the full champion, the full welterweight champion. And it's crazy because this is a guy in Brian Norman Jr. I've been hearing about for years because I'm cool with one of his friends, Najee Lopez, and I remember meeting Najee Lopez down here in South Florida in 2019. And I remember right after I started following Najee Lopez on Instagram, Najee posted a couple times, more than a fair share of times, about Brian Norman Jr. So that was a name I started hearing about a lot even back then. But then I didn't really get a chance to watch Brian Norman Jr. like an extended till he signed with Top Rank. So I've seen the Figueroa, the Quentin Randall, and now this fight against Santillán. And those first two fights against Figueroa and Quentin Randall, very, very underwhelming performances, forgettable fights. And I couldn't quite see what all the fuss, what all the hooting and hollering was about in the boxing world with Brian Norman Jr. But he showed us why there was hooting and hollering and why his name carried weight in the last fight against Santillán. So I set the stage and I say all that to say, guys, Brian Norman Jr. is going to be a world champion, and he's going to be a world champion from Atlanta, which for me, I've always thought that Atlanta has had potential as a boxing city, as a place that can host big fights. So the question is, and the question that inspired this video that I asked myself was, is Brian Norman Jr. the fighter that will bring big time boxing to somewhere like Atlanta, that the ATL could get behind? Because look, generally speaking, boxing events are on the West Coast. You know, LA, Texas, Arizona, those areas. Las Vegas, of course. You know, New York City, the Northeast. Those are all where boxing events mostly get held. The South don't really get fights like that. You know, we get the odd fight here in Miami, and it's always like a whatever fight, like Steve Claggett versus Teofimo Lopez. But I've always felt Atlanta has potential because boxing has had periods of time in the last 5 years where they've invested money in boxing. Look at Gervonta Davis. He had a couple fights in Atlanta. Atlanta was supposed to be a place where he was going to build himself, like PBC and many other promotions. They were trying to build Tank as a star in Atlanta before the pandemic, and then they just never went back. After Gamboa in 2019, which was his last fight before the pandemic, they never went back. But he could have been that guy over there because, you know, obviously Atlanta, they got a huge black population, right? They call it Black Hollywood. So for the right fighter, I feel like they could. I feel like they would show up and show out. They did for Tank. I'm not saying Brian Norman Jr. is Tank, but he's a born and bred ATL fighter. So this is a really interesting storyline to me because the welterweight division is wide open. So there's two ways Top Rank, I feel, could build a guy like Brian Norman Jr. They could either A, put him in a big fight against someone like he's called out Conor Benn, he called out Ryan Garcia. You obviously have Barrios, and you have Stenianis, and you got Boots, of course. So they can go that route, right? Or they could actually go the route trying to build him into a star, which to me, in this particular case, is the more interesting route because I think Atlanta has potential as a boxing city. You know, I mentioned Tank. Overtime Boxing does all their cards. They do all their cards in Atlanta. They got their headquarters set up in Atlanta. So boxing has shown in the last 5 to 6 years that they will invest in a boxing market like Atlanta. So now that there's going to be an Atlanta-born welterweight champion, will Top Rank roll the dice and take a chance on Brian Norman Jr. and building him into a star, getting him some fights in Atlanta? I feel like it's a chance they should take because it's a chance to really build a star, an organic star in a market I feel is there. You know, it's there. He's got a personality. If you watch this post-fight interview or any interviews with him, he's got a personality. He's got that southern draw to him. He can punch. I want to see. I actually want to see Top Rank try to build Brian Norman Jr. into a star, and just to see how it goes. Because again, I feel like it would be a great exercise in how to really promote a fighter. Because it's easy to listen in boxing. It's easy to promote a Mexican fighter on the West Coast. It doesn't. If he can fight a little bit, it almost takes no work. It's easy. It's a little easier to promote on the Northeast, you know, in New York or Philly, right? But the South, I feel like that's where they're gonna have to do real promotion because I want to see them do it. I do think Brian Norman Jr. has potential to be something like as far as a star. Because now that I've seen him like really like put it on someone, and I know it's crazy how boxing works. A video ago or two, I'm talking about Top Rank potentially cutting him. Now I'm saying they need to build him into a star. So there's no fight in the welterweight division right now, I feel. And I'm putting my manager's hat on. I'm speaking from the managerial standpoint. There's no fight in the welterweight division right now for Brian Norman Jr. that I feel makes the financial sense to just throw him in there, right? So you actually have a landscape where you could take your time in building this kid into a star or a household name and getting people more familiar with them and maybe trying to get him a fan base out there, build his fan base in Atlanta. Just do that, and let's see how it goes. I think boxing needs to get better with building fighters in their actual hometown markets and building boxing in major cities in this country that don't normally have big events. And Atlanta, to me, is one of those cities. It's just one of those cities like that I feel has potential. Like Atlanta, Chicago, here in South Florida, they all have potential. But you know, like right now, South Florida, we don't got nobody that like proudly is South Floridian, that's like top fighter, that's a world champion like Brian Norman. So it's a little harder. Same thing with Chicago. But in this case, you do have that, and the division isn't at a stage where he has to rush into a big fight. So it's worth trying. And look, if Brian Norman Jr. isn't good enough to hold the belt and defend the belts in his hometown, then that's on Brian Norman Jr. But I still think it's something that Top Rank should try, because at the same time, right, we've heard a lot of criticism from Top Rank, from fighters over the years about Top Rank not knowing how to promote black fighters. That was something that Terence Crawford mentioned towards the end of his tenure at Top Rank. That's something that Shakur Stevenson has mentioned towards recently. And now this is an opportunity for Top Rank to properly promote a black fighter. So I want to see how they promote a black fighter who is from a predominantly black market. And I feel like it'd be good for Top Rank to prove that, because then it could dispel a lot of narratives out there. And I think it would be good for boxing. So that's where I'm coming from, you know. I think Brian Norman Jr., with him being champion, there's now potential for big time boxing to come to the South, which I think would be great for the sport, especially for the health of the sport in this country. It's just that does Top Rank gonna be willing to do that? I mean, I don't know Atlanta like that. I've only been to Atlanta one time, and I was there for like one day, literally, for a fight. But I know they have smaller venues. You don't gotta put Brian Norman Jr. in no big stadium. Like, you gotta fight in the Brave Stadium or any of the big arenas. You know, I know they have like the Buckhead Theater, which is a small venue, which I went to a fight there one time years ago. Start him off in small venues and see how he does, and if he can continue to win and build a buzz, then you may actually have something. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. What do you guys think about Brian Norman Jr. maybe bringing big time boxing to the South and being the star that Atlanta boxing has been looking for? You know, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. I'm at the Boxing Hall of Fame out here in Canterfield, New York. And for more great boxing content just like this video, make sure you click and subscribe right over here.